Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday service of Now Creations. Just want to mention how nice it is just to be here with you. Really, in a sense, nothing to do, just to be in a sense of peace, of joy, a sense of inner happiness, of calmness, and just knowing that we are all loved, not only by each other, but by the source itself. And may you just find that peace and happiness within yourself today. A couple of announcements before we begin. First of all, I'd like to welcome all of you to our New Earth study group this evening from 6 to 7:30 p.m. It's a wonderful book by Eckhart Tolle. Please join us if you're able to do so. And then tomorrow evening, Monday, from 7 to 8 o'clock, we have our weekly meditation. It is such a fun, enjoyable time. Again, try to join us. Allow something else to come into your life. And then the last thing I want to mention is the James Webb Space Telescope. If there were ever an eighth wonder of the world, it would certainly be that telescope. In fact, not just a wonder of the world, but a wonder out of the world as well. I encourage you to keep track of it. We've sent you the email link, and I hope you'll find it as enjoyable as many of us are doing. With that in mind, let's begin today's teaching. The last few weeks have been a great joy for many of you, and certainly for Now Creations and for me personally. Together, we have made far better sense of the holiday season than many of the prevailing traditions that are quite outdated for many of us. We have recontextualized the holidays. Try to recontextualize to fit in to something that is much more realistic and more futuristic within our own lives. Rather than looking backwards at what doesn't make sense anymore, we have taken the bold step to move into a much happier, creative future. The highlight of this future is the realization that we truly are eternal creative souls, fully conscious, and that the Holy Spirit is our best friend. We know who we are, and we are ready to live accordingly. The knowledge that the Holy Spirit is our best friend, in whose guidance we can fully trust, has prompted me to ask the question, well, if the Holy Spirit is our best friend, then who is or what is our worst enemy? Now let's be clear. There is no worse enemy. There is no worse enemy. But I will address the false idea that you have such a false idea of a worst enemy for two reasons. First, I know that several of us have residual energies within us that need to be understood so that we can remove them. This is so important for us so that we can have a better understanding of our own growth. And then secondly, that we can then be understanding of others and helpful to them who are still stuck in their old energies. Thus, today's teaching is entitled Best Friend, Worst Enemy. I will begin with a perceptive remark made by Gloria Steinem, a wonderful voice for feminism from the 60s on, proceed to define our worst enemy, and then present three of the larger problems of the worst enemy, and of course, there are three antidotes. First, the quote by Gloria Steinem. If the shoe doesn't fit, you don't change your foot. It's a great quote. If the shoe doesn't fit, well, you don't change your foot. Such an insightful way of stating that so many things no longer fit into an old model, and we now need to find another shoe that really does fit. This is a perfect analogy for studying our worst enemy. The old shoe doesn't fit anymore. We need to find a more comfortable shoe. Although many people still try to be like Cinderella's sisters, trying to squeeze their feet into that glass slipper that just no longer fits, that no longer fits their needs, not only for themselves, but also for many people who are confused about the meaning of life. So with this quote in mind, let's now consider who or what is the worst enemy we face. After an opening comment, I'm going to give some credibility and some space to my good friends Aristotle and Plato for guidance. First, the opening comment. Please do not think that your worst enemy is something outside of yourself. Please do not think your worst enemy is something outside of yourself. There is not an evil devil trying to trick you. There is not an ego that is trying to hold you back. Be crystal clear. The only one who is holding you back is yourself. The only one who is holding you back in old energies is yourself, and for two reasons. First, you are always creating your own reality by the choices you make. So even when these choices are occurring from a less conscious state, they are still your choices. You are making the choice to hold yourself back when you are holding yourself back. And secondly, we have ended our game of separation, but we still carry remnants of the energy of separation with us. And we still need to release some of those things of our past. This is where Aristotle and Plato are so helpful. The remnants of separation are simply habits of your past. Let me just say this again. The remnants of separation are simply habits of your past. Aristotle defined habits as simply repeated actions that we have become accustomed to. Aristotle further says that these habits have a tendency to become character traits. We think that we are our habits. We think that we are our character states. And then Aristotle, being Aristotle, said that since we created our habits, we can change our habits. Since we created what we thought were character states, we can change our character states as we change our habits, and of course become more conscious. Thank you, Aristotle. Now, my good friend Plato. Plato is also very helpful because what he really said was the biggest problem, and I think this is really true, the biggest problem that most of us face is ignorance. For whatever reason, we don't understand who we are or the way we function. Now, updating Plato's view of ignorance, the basic human problem, I think, we can define in these four particular ways. First of all, ignorance does not excuse you from its effects. Ignorance does not excuse you from its effects, especially when you think you are right. Just because you raise your voice and plead your case, if you're ignorant, the results will manifest in suffering and discomfort sooner or later. Secondly, many people still argue for their ignorance. Many people still argue for their limitations because they just can't stand to be challenged or to be proven wrong. Perhaps you know a few people like this. Third, you have often heard the phrase, "The truth will make you free." That's true. Providing you know the truth. Ignorance will not set you free, regardless of how right you think you are. Ignorance isn't the truth, regardless of what you think. It is the last point, so beautifully presented by Plato, that is the most important point for us, namely, that ignorance makes you disregard your power. Ignorance makes you disregard your power. This is such a truth for us. Ignorance makes you disregard your power. The real power that leads to truth is the presence, the guidance of the Holy Spirit within us. And this is the power that we're going to talk about as antidotes as we proceed. So with these teachings of Plato and Aristotle keenly in mind, let us now turn to the three major ignorances of life and the three antidotes of spiritual presence. The first ignorance I would suggest is simply presented in the phrase, "me first." Me first. This "me first" easily then extends to my family, my religion, my nationality, my race, and what we have seen so much of lately, my country. Before we get to the antidote, however, let us first consider two worms in the apple of me first. The first worm in the apple is that whenever we say it's me first, see if this is not true, there never then seems to be enough. One always needs more. Well, I need more money just in case. I need more security, more protection just in case. I need more affirmations in this relationship just to make sure it's fine. We always need more. There's never enough when it's me first, which then leads to the second worm. I must protect what I have from others. Such a person ends up, in a sense, not trusting anyone, because anyone can be a threat to them. Maybe another family member, maybe the person you have to deal with in a business transaction, or maybe an immigrant. Me first. Me first is a terrible ignorance. The antidote is oneness, but not a Pollyanna notion that you must just love everyone no matter what they do, but rather a oneness that begins with the feeling that you are whole and complete within yourself. Let me explain this. Because we do feel whole and complete, because we feel there is no lack, we have no need to feel that others are threats to us, whether it be a family member, a business transaction, or an immigrant, because the oneness brings with it a clarity to each situation in which we're involved. It's the clarity of the oneness that enables you to adequately understand any situation that takes away your ignorance. Oneness brings with it a knowledge that clearly enables you to discern the truth of your situation. And it is the truth of this situation that will truly set you free. This truth comes from the intuition of your God spirit. This is the source of the oneness that you have come to trust in, and you have learned to trust without reservation because it never, never, never fails you. The truth of oneness has proven trustworthy, and it will set you free. The second ignorance, the desire to control. We all know what this is like. We like to control relationships, money, possessions, and health, especially my relationships, my money, my possessions, my health. You can easily see how the first ignorance of me first flows into the second ignorance of the desire to control. However, the desire to control also has a worm in it. It's a very insidious worm at the very core of the control. Such a worm, and this is why it's so insidious, such a worm doesn't appear until oftentimes it's too late to change one's acquired habits. Let me explain. For many people, control works because it is often the way the world works. It can be in several phrases such as, well, the early bird gets the worm. Fortune favors the brave. Or if you don't take care of yourself, well, you know, no one else will. Such a view has been held for years from the Romans to the barons of industry. Many people simply say, wake up. That's the way the world is, and that's it. Well, it is the way the world works until it doesn't. Eventually, you begin to realize the futility and the impossibility of controlling things. The futility sometimes comes early in life, but more so later, but it comes. It may come in the loss of a relationship, the loss of money and possessions, or in the loss of health. The futility is clearly seen. The one has put their hopes and confidence in things outside of themselves. And when these things begin to change, one's life often falls or seems to be falling apart, and often quite readily. The antidote to control. The antidote to control is internal guidance. And by internal guidance, I mean having a clear understanding of who you are and how you operate. Again, let me explain. What becomes so very interesting to me, what I would suggest, is the fact that when you realize that you are an intelligent, loving soul, when you realize that you are an intelligent, loving soul, this intelligent understanding of yourself as that intelligent, loving soul results in your soul giving you guidance far beyond your personality self and much more by way of the soul's intuition. Your soul your soul sees more clearly than your personality self. You've worked hard to achieve this understanding. And it's very, very, very important for us to understand that it is your soul that not only will give you the best guidance for yourself, but also serve the best guidance and interest of everyone else. Your soul is in the best interest of everyone else, not just in the interest of the one who is controlling. Oh boy. And your ability to handle yourself, especially in the midst of people who are trying to control you, has often become, I think, quite frankly, one of your greatest achievements in life. It's not just that you are no longer controlling, that you are no longer being controlled. Do not back down. The truth of your internal guidance is the antidote to control, and it will set you free. Speaking of do not back down, let me also add, do not back up. Do not back up introduces the third and possibly the most difficult of all needs that have to be changed. It's the old habit of fear. The faces of fear are multiple and can be overwhelming. It could be that maybe you're losing what you feel to be your grip on life through age or illness. It could be that life seems meaningless all of a sudden and that no one really seems to care about you. It could be maybe abandonment issues, such as loneliness, or nothing seems to satisfy you. Nothing seems to catch your fancy. You're perpetually bored. It could be financial issues, that your savings will run out, that you'll be alone on the street, and perhaps alone in that proverbial poorhouse. One fear could be also the fact that you feel depressed and somewhat despairing. And it just seems like no matter what you do, it's not good enough. These are real things that we must contend with. Let me suggest that the initial antidote to fear is not love. The initial antidote to fear is providence. By providence, I mean that you are cared for by your never failing, always loving, ever supportive God energy. Providence means that you are cared for by your never failing, always loving, ever supportive God energy. You realize, as the Course in Miracles teaches, that you are a child of God, and truly, you have not left that source. Your source, the God energy, never, never, never failing you, is the true antidote to fear. Because when you feel loved by the God Spirit, you then begin to feel loving as the way you want to operate in life. And then the miracle happens. As you become more loving, love is returned to you. As you become more provident in life, life becomes more and more providential for you. I do want to repeat this. As you become more provident in life, as you extend your loving, life then becomes more providential for you. You and I begin to enter the eternal flow of love. This is so important. We enter this eternal flow of love consciously, clearly, wholeheartedly. Your conscious, provident love, your conscious, provident love has become the antidote to fear. And it is the ultimate truth that will free you. In conclusion, I hope that you no longer have to look backwards to those old habits that Aristotle and Plato talked about, that they in fact have changed in the light of your best friend, that Holy Spirit that is within you, that is slowly but surely becoming yourself, and yourself in the flow of the God Spirit. It is this eternal flow that we in Now Creations are assisting each other to experience. It is this eternal flow and this providential love that we in Now Creations are assisting each other to experience. It's wonderful to be able to do these things together, becoming provident for each other and for all others. This is the way. Let me now take you into meditation, and what a joy it is to do so. Let us begin as we normally do by just taking a few breaths, just breathing in, breathing out, allowing our bodies to settle, the mind to reduce its chit-chat, and to bring the soul, the inner you, to the fore. Please begin. And would you notice how you didn't have to go down too far to find the inner you? Again, we'll just take a moment here to recognize that the inner you is much more your surface you. The inner you, the more deeply spiritual you, is much more on your surface. It's becoming your much more eyes opened, walking around in the world all the time, sense of self. You've worked hard to achieve this, and you have achieved it. Just take a moment to realize that the inner you is just much more and more your surface you. Now, honestly, doesn't that feel good? Your surface you. Your surface you has become the inner you. It's the way you're operating now. Let us now take a moment to, though, with our eyes closed, locate that inner you within our physical body. Begin right behind our sternum, knowing that in this place, right behind the breastbone, we begin to experience this inner presence. Wonderful, wonderful presence. It's not your body, it's not your mind, it's the inner you. It is your soul self. It is the part of you that individuates from the God Spirit. Now, this is so very important for us. Would you acknowledge the fact that you have played the game of separation, that you have dimmed your inner light, and for centuries have played the game of separation? To understand the experience of separation, selfishness, me first, control, I got to be in charge, fear, so many faces of fear. We're done. We're done with that game. There's a part of you that knows this. You're done with that game because there's now a part of you, not your mind, but your soul, that has realigned. You have realigned consciously, clearly, daily, with the God Spirit. Does a remnant of the past game of separation sometimes still stay in your energy? It does. But now you know how to deal with it. You know the antidotes. And particularly, you know the antidote. And that is your conscious alignment with the God Spirit. You don't have a worse enemy. There aren't any. The remnants of your past are past. They have given way, first of all, to the notion of oneness, that oneness being whole and complete within yourself. Did you ever think you'd say, geez, I'm whole and complete in myself. I know me. I know my fullness. This is me, whole and complete. Control, and always worried that maybe you would lose control, has been replaced by the internal guidance of your soul spirit. The internal guidance of your soul spirit has given a clarity to your life that is so much more effective than attempts to control. And make things so much better for yourself and for others. You no longer are putting your confidence in things that change dramatically at times, but now are putting your confidence in the changeless, conscious, eternal God Spirit. Oh, what a relief. Oh, what a relief. And I would encourage you to realize that the real antidote to fear is the fact that you are cared for, that there's a providence in your life. And because you feel cared for, ever supported by your source energy, you can be provident in the lives of others. You can feel confident to release your love. And then you know the law of attraction. As you do so, how much returns back to you. You know this. Together, we are entering consciously into the eternal flow of life. Wow.
I honor thee. I honor thee. Namaste.
How do you feel right now? Isn't the presence within you clear enough to be the antidote to anything that might still be a remnant of the past? And what fun to be doing this together into a realistic evolutionary future. Namaste.